Hi, I'm Kevin, and thanks for joining me on my channel, The History Squad, in this, our series about the 100 Years' War. This is part 3, The Road to Crecy. Now, if you've missed part 1 and part 2, you can actually go back. Yeah, the link to the playlist is in the description. But now, let's go back. France, 1346. There is fighting in Gascony. There has been a war, well, in fact, it's still going on down in Brittany. There's also something going up in Flanders. France is bubbling over, but Philip VI has got an idea. He knows that our king, Edward III, is going to invade, so he's going to intercept the English fleet. He's going to take them out in the English Channel. He has a fleet of ships hired from the Genoese coming up, except they're not going to arrive, because what we think is Edward III actually bribed them not to come. And his French fleet is actually not fully assembled when Edward's fleet finally, after several delays, set sail. These are hundreds of ships, right? And they are going to go all the way to Bordeaux. No, they're not. Actually, he changed his mind because he's not telling anybody, this Edward III, this king. He keeps his plans close to his chest. He's going to land in Normandy and he's going to fool everybody, and he lands right where the Americans landed on D-Day, 6th of June 1944. He lands on the Carentan Peninsula, Normandy, on the 12th of July 1346, and they're virtually unopposed. A local commander, Robert Bertram, only has 300 militia. He should have also had 500 professional mercenary troops, but mistake number one, he didn't pay them. So a few days before the English landed, they packed up and went home. This means that Edward III's army now can launch what is called a chevauchée. It's a terrible thing. It's when you broaden your army and you move through enemy territory, burning, pillaging, killing. It is the most devastating thing. But Edward III, we think his plan, because this guy just doesn't tell anybody what he's doing. It's great. Yeah, we think his plan is this. He has a joint Anglo-Flemish army coming down from the north. He also has part of his own army coming up from the south. What we think we understand, you see that big word, think, yeah, is that he's going to converge with his three armies onto Paris. But first, he has to take Caen. 26th of July, 1346. The English moving around Normandy now, and they hit Caen. 1,500 French soldiers protecting the walls, and the English storm it. And it's a fast storming, and they take the city. Refugees flee all the way to Paris. It's terrible. Those soldiers that survived go with them. It's terrible for them because this town is going to be sacked. And interestingly, the English fleet had been sent home to fetch reinforcements and supplies, and he's supposed to meet the king's army further up the coast. It doesn't turn up. Missed opportunity, or is that a mistake? But it means that we're going to run short of either men or supplies further down the line. Meanwhile, the king's plan that we really don't know about. Was it to join up with the army from the north and from the army from the south, and then he comes from the west, and then they can take Paris? I don't know. In fact, nobody does. And of course, he didn't know that the two armies aren't going to make it. They've been intercepted. There's fighting in the south, and our army from Flanders get fed up, burn some of their supplies and go home. Ouch. Edward III's army's on its own. Now, he reaches almost to the outskirts of Paris. At Poissy, on the River Seine, just outside of Paris, Edward gets his engineers. He had 40 carpenters with his wagon train, you know, and they built a wooden bridge across, and they capture the other side, the Paris side of the River Seine. And oh my goodness me, there's panic in Paris because there are so many refugees, and also a problem for the French king. His army is down in the south, in Gascony, fighting away. He keeps calling it to come back, but they won't. Now He's stuck with an English army right outside his front door. So he comes up with an idea and he says to Edward III, "Let us meet in a field and have a battle then." And Edward says, "Yeah, all right, Ed." So Edward appears to accept the challenge, but he's bluffing. He will meet somewhere on the south of the Seine for this battle, but he has no intention. Yeah, and remarkably, he's only 23 kilometers from the centre of Paris when he decides to burn down the little town of Crecy and the bridge so the French can't follow him, and marches away to the north. He's obviously got spies. He knows now that the main French army is coming up from Gascony, and it's coming up fast. So now he has got to get north. He's got to find that fleet, or he's got to get to Calais so he can escape back to England. This is where things could go wrong for the English. Philip VI, King of France, moves fast. He realises if the English army is moving north, they are going to be running low on supplies. So he ensures that messages are sent. Militias, what soldiers they have, are actually stripping the countryside of any food, anything usable in front of the English. Meanwhile, his army is coming up. This is going to be a race to the River Somme. If the English get across, they can escape. So they ensure that all of the bridges are actually guarded. There will be many a fierce fight along the way. The English army is literally starting to fall to its knees. They need food when they find out there is a ford, a Blanche-Tech, right at the end of the River Somme. It's actually 2,000 yards wide, so I understand. But when the tide goes out, you can get across. You've got about 4 hours. There is a rumour that a Frenchman actually tipped them off and he was regarded as a traitor. But now, what we don't realise is the other side of Blanche-Tech are 3,500 French. They also have Genoese crossbowmen with them. It's not going to be as straightforward as you think. And I love this because the Earl of Warwick now has bowmen wading across the river. As they get about halfway across, now crossbow bolts are going past them. I've got a crossbow bolt here. You just have a look at that. This is the type of crossbow bolt that will be hitting you. The bowmen fall, but they still come on as they wade through the water, ignoring men falling until they get within range. Now they can draw their bows. Now they can rain arrows into the position of the Genoese. It takes time, but there is a bit of a duel going on here until eventually the crossbowmen begin to slacken off their pace of shot. That gives the Earl of Warwick chance now to get some mounted men-at-arms knights into the water and get across. The French respond. Right in front of the bowmen, there is a little battle between knights, swords, lances, water splashing, horses rearing. Meanwhile, the bowmen are shooting over the heads around wherever they can until the French horsemen, those that survive, are driven back. Now the bowmen, joined by reinforcements, more men now are coming across the river and they get onto the other side. There ensues a battle. The bowmen shoot as hard as they can and the French break and run. 2,000 French dead. It wasn't an easy crossing, but now we've got to get the wagons across. We've got to get everything across. Those wagons stacked high with arrows and those mysterious iron tubes that are underneath the arrows. Everything must be got across because we know hot on our heels is a French army. And it arrives. He might have captured 1 or 2 wagons, taken 1 or 2 prisoners, but the rest of the army gets across. It's a bit of a strange one here. Why didn't the French attack the rear? Why didn't they come across? There was still time. Or was the tide coming in? Were they afraid? Were there not enough soldiers? What we do know now is the English are across the River Somme and they are attacking towns nearby that haven't been cleared of food and supplies. Now we can resupply. Now we can get on the road to Calais. So just to recap, we have a map here, and I'm going to show you the route that Edward III's army took. I'll show you a Bodkin arrowhead, and here you have him leaving Portsmouth, 11th, 12th of July, 1346, gets across the Channel, and he lands just a day later on the Carentan Peninsula. It takes a couple of days to get his army going, and then they head south. But don't forget, this is actually a chevauchée. They burn their way forward. So these little towns, yeah, they're going to be destroyed. People are going to be made refugees. As he moves on to Caen, it's here that he lays siege on the 26th of July in Caen. And the army then, they move further towards Paris. And you can see the route they take, town after town after town. And they eventually end up at Poissy. And it's here that the King of France offers Edward the chance of a battle. And Edward bluffs it there. So what he does, instead of meeting the French for a battle, is he burns the bridge, burns Poissy so nobody can follow him, and he heads north. But it's here that the land is devoid of supplies. He tries to get across the River Somme so he can get on north to Calais, but all of the crossings are heavily guarded. So it's on and on till eventually, 24th of August, he manages to get across Blanche-Tech. And then, once he's resupplied from local towns, he can head north. But it's only 2 days later that we reach Crecy. But that will be part 4 of our series. I've ordered some soldiers so that I can make a little bit of a model of the battle. The soldiers are coming from Perry Miniatures, and they're currying them all the way here to Canada. So hopefully that will come pretty quick. So I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, thumbs up. If you're a subscriber, great. If you're not, subscribe and ding that bell. Thank you very much for your time.